The light from the twin moons of Gareth cast an eerie blue glow across the vast desert landscape. Sand dunes stretched endlessly, like frozen waves in an ocean of time, only interrupted by the towering silhouette of Baron Zalet's fortress that rose from the horizon like a giant sentinel guarding the fertile plains beyond. Aaron Caldwell adjusted his environmental suit as he stepped out of the transport vessel. The heat was intense even at night. 4 months of interstellar travel, and he was finally here, on Gareth, a planet half desert, half lush plains, inhabited by various alien species and ruled by powerful aristocratic families known as the Alien Barons. As a scientist from Earth, his mission was straightforward. Research the planet's resources, establish potential cooperation protocols, and avoid political entanglements at all costs. Welcome to Gareth, Earthling. A tall, slender figure greeted him at the landing pad. The alien skin had a greenish hue that seemed to shimmer under the moonlight, and his eyes, large and golden, studied Aaron with unconcealed curiosity. "I am Selroth, Baron Zalet's Chamberlain. My master awaits your delegation at the Grand Hall." Aaron nodded, gesturing to the 5 other humans exiting the vessel behind him: engineers, botanists, and resource specialists. "We're grateful for Baron Zalet's hospitality." The interior of the fortress was a stark contrast to the harsh desert outside. Crystal chandeliers illuminated vast halls adorned with artifacts from across the galaxy. Servants, some human, some from species Aaron couldn't identify, moved silently across polished floors of blue marble. The conspicuous wealth made Aaron uncomfortable. He had heard stories about the extreme class division on Gareth, how the barons controlled nearly everything, and how those without status or money often struggled in harsh conditions. Seeing it firsthand was jarring. "Ah, the humans have arrived," a booming voice echoed through the hall. Baron Zalet sat on an elevated platform, surrounded by courtiers and family members. Physically, he resembled his chamberlain, but his presence was far more imposing. His skin was darker, almost forest green, and adorned with gold-inlaid patterns that seemed to be marks of status. His eyes were piercing, and his expression, while smiling, held something Aaron couldn't quite place, perhaps contempt or amusement. "Baron Zalet." Aaron stepped forward, bowing slightly as he had been instructed. "On behalf of the Earth Science Council, we thank you for allowing this research mission." "The pleasure is mine." Baron Zalet's voice dripped with a sarcasm that was poorly masked by formality. "We don't receive many humans of academic distinction. Most of your kind come as traders or laborers." Aaron forced a smile, recalling his briefing. On Gareth, humans were largely considered inferior, tolerated mostly for their utility. Academic exchange was rare, and this mission represented a potential breakthrough in interspecies relations. "Tonight, we feast in your honor," the Baron continued. "And I have arranged something special for you, Aaron Caldwell." The banquet was lavish beyond anything Aaron had ever experienced. Exotic dishes from across the galaxy filled tables that stretched the length of the hall. Wine flowed freely, and entertainment, both musical and acrobatic, filled the spaces between courses. Aaron's team seemed overwhelmed by the opulence, but he couldn't shake the feeling that beneath this display of generosity lay something else. As the evening progressed, Baron Zalet beckoned Aaron to approach his table. "I understand you're not merely a scientist, but also something of a healer? A physician. Medical technology is one of my specialties," Aaron confirmed cautiously, "along with resource analysis and—" "Excellent," the Baron interrupted, clapping his hands. The hall fell silent. "Then I have the perfect welcoming gift for you." With a gesture, the Baron signaled to a side door. 2 servants entered, guiding a hovering chair. Seated in it was a young alien female who physically resembled the Baron, but with softer features and eyes that held none of his cruelty. She looked fragile, almost translucent under the hall's bright lights. Her legs were thin, lifeless, and she sat with her hands gripping the chair's arms as though afraid she might fall. Her expression was one of resignation mixed with humiliation. "This is Mayare," the Baron announced, his voice projecting for all to hear. My daughter, born with a defect that prevents her from walking. A great disappointment, as you can imagine. Aaron felt his chest tighten at the callousness with which the Baron spoke about his own child. The girl, Mayare, kept her gaze fixed on the floor. As a gesture of goodwill between our worlds, Baron Zalek continued, I gift her to you, Earthling. A murmur spread through the hall. Mayare's head snapped up, her golden eyes widening in shock. Gift? Her? Aaron repeated, certain he had misunderstood. The Baron's smile widened, revealing teeth that were unexpectedly sharp. She's useless to my lineage. Can't walk, can't fulfill duties, can't even stand beside me at court without that ridiculous floating chair. He waved dismissively, but for an Earth scientist, perhaps she'll make a fascinating research subject, or companion, or both. He laughed, and many of the courtiers joined in. Aaron felt the blood drain from his face as realization dawned. This wasn't a gift, it was a cruel joke. The Baron was publicly humiliating his daughter and simultaneously mocking Aaron by suggesting that a lowly human and a defective alien were somehow deserving of each other. I can't possibly accept a person as a gift, Aaron stammered, glancing at Mayare, whose expression had hardened into something between rage and mortification. Nonsense. Baron Zalet dismissed Aaron's protest with a wave. It's decided. Mayare will reside in the guest wing with your delegation. You'll find her quite intelligent, despite her limitations. Perhaps she'll even assist with your research. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper that only Aaron could hear. Consider it a test of Earth's famous compassion. Aaron stood frozen, diplomacy warring with disgust. To refuse might insult the Baron and jeopardize the entire mission. To accept would be to participate in this degrading charade. He glanced at Mayare again, and this time their eyes met. In that golden gaze, he saw not just humiliation, but a spark of something else, defiance, perhaps, or simply the will to survive in a world that constantly devalued her. I'm honored by your generosity, Aaron finally said, choosing his words carefully. If Lady Mayare consents to assist our research team, we would welcome her knowledge of Gareth. The Baron seemed disappointed by Aaron's measured response, clearly having expected either groveling gratitude or flustered rejection. She has no choice in the matter, he said flatly, but I'm pleased you recognize the value of my gift. Later that night, as the banquet concluded and the Earth delegation returned to their assigned quarters, Aaron found Mayare already installed in an adjoining chamber, attended by two servants who seemed as uncomfortable as she was. You may leave us, Aaron told the servants, who hesitated only briefly before bowing and exiting. Alone with Mayare, Aaron struggled to find the right words. Lady Mayare, I want you to understand that I don't view you as a gift or property. This situation is not of my making, and I... Spare me your pity, human, Mayare interrupted, her voice stronger and clearer than he had expected. I'm well accustomed to being my father's greatest disappointment. This is merely his latest method of reminding me. I don't pity you, Aaron said honestly. I'm angry at how you were treated. But more importantly, I want you to know that you're free to do as you please. You don't need to assist us or even interact with us if you don't wish to. Mayare's eyes narrowed suspiciously. And when my father asks why his gift isn't being utilized, what will you tell him? The truth, that in Earth culture, people make their own choices. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. How wonderfully idealistic. Unfortunately, Gareth isn't Earth. Here, I am defined by my limitations and my lineage, both of which, apparently, make me disposable. She manipulated a control on her chair, causing it to move toward a window overlooking the desert. This little performance tonight wasn't just about humiliating me. It was a message to all his court, and to you, that humans are only worthy of Gareth's defective castoffs. Aaron moved to stand beside her at the window. Then perhaps we should prove him wrong. Mayare turned her head sharply. What do you mean? I mean, Aaron said carefully, that I really am a specialist in medical technology, among other things. If you're interested, I could examine you, Perhaps find ways to improve your mobility. Many healers have tried, she said flatly. The best on Gareth. My spine was damaged before birth. It cannot be repaired. With all due respect to Gareth's healers, Earth medicine approaches things differently. And I've studied xenobiology extensively. I'm not promising miracles, but I like to try, if you'll allow it. For a long moment, Mayar simply stared at him, her golden eyes unreadable. Then almost imperceptibly, she nodded. Very well, Earth scientist. You may try where others have failed. But know this. If you're using me as an experiment, or worse, if you truly pity me, I will make your stay on Gareth exceedingly unpleasant. Aaron found himself smiling despite the tension. That sounds fair. The following days established a cautious routine. Mornings were devoted to the research team's primary mission, analyzing Gareth's natural resources, particularly the strange crystal formations in the desert that seemed to possess unusual energy properties. Afternoons, Aaron would work with Mayare, conducting tests and developing a better understanding of her condition. Mayare's paralysis was indeed complex. Her species, the Garathians, had a nervous system fundamentally different from humans. Their spines contained not just nerve pathways, but also secondary vascular systems that regulated body temperature and crucial metabolic functions. Her injury, a congenital malformation, had compromised both mobility and overall health, explaining her slight frame and apparent fragility. Your previous healers focused on repairing the damage, Aaron explained one afternoon, reviewing scan results. But that approach might be fundamentally flawed. What if we bypass the damaged areas entirely? Mayare looked skeptical. Explain. On Earth, we've developed neural interface technology for similar conditions. We don't fix the broken pathway, we create a new one. A bridge of sorts. Aaron pulled up diagrams on his portable screen. It would require adapting our technology to Garathian physiology, but conceptually, it should work. And has this been done with non-humans before? Theoretical applications exist, but Aaron hesitated. To my knowledge, no. So I would be the first. A true experiment. Mayare's voice was flat, but Aaron was beginning to recognize the subtle shifts in her expression that betrayed deeper emotions. She wasn't angry. She was contemplating. It would be a collaboration, Aaron corrected. I have the technical knowledge, but you understand your body and its responses better than I ever could. For the first time since they'd met, Mayare's lips curved into something resembling a smile. A diplomatic answer, worthy of a court politician. I'm being honest, Aaron insisted. This isn't about proving anything or conducting an experiment. It's about offering possibilities where none existed before. Mayare studied him for a long moment. Very well. How do we proceed? As weeks passed, their relationship evolved from wary collaboration to genuine partnership. Mayare proved to be not just intelligent, but insightful, quickly grasping complex medical concepts and offering crucial modifications based on her knowledge of Garathian biology. She also began sharing information about Gareth's politics, history, and culture that prove invaluable to the research team's broader mission. The desert crystals you're studying, she explained one evening as they worked late in a makeshift laboratory, are called sun catchers in our oldest texts. Legend says they once powered an entire civilization before the Great Drought transformed half our world to desert. Legends often contain kernels of truth, Aaron replied, adjusting a neural stimulator he was calibrating. The crystals do seem to absorb and store solar energy remarkably efficiently. More than legend, Mayare countered. In my father's private library, forbidden to most, there are ancient texts that speak of the crystals being used for healing as well as power. Aaron looked up sharply. Healing? How? The texts are fragmented, but they describe a process of channeling energy through the crystals to reawaken sleeping pathways in the body. I always assumed it was metaphorical or simply primitive medicine disguised as magic. Maybe not, Aaron said thoughtfully. Energy transference at the cellular level could theoretically stimulate neural regrowth or create new pathways. Is there any way to access these texts? Mayare's expression darkened. My father guarded his library jealously. Knowledge is power on Gareth, and the barons hoard both. But you've been there before? When I was younger, before my father gave up on me entirely, I would read while he conducted business. The healer's texts were in an ancient dialect. Few can still read it. But you can, Aaron guessed. Might I not that? It was my small rebellion, learning what was supposed to be beyond my reach. Aaron felt a surge of admiration. In many ways, Mayare had faced greater obstacles than just her physical limitations. She had battled against an entire society that dismissed her value, and still, she had found ways to grow, to learn, to resist. If those texts contain information that could help us develop a neural interface, we need to see them. Breaking into my father's private library would be considered treason, Mayare warned. For both of us. Then we don't break in, Aaron said. We get invited. Their opportunity came sooner than expected. Baron Zalet, curious about the Earth delegation's progress, and perhaps hoping to find Aaron failing miserably with his gift, summoned them to a formal progress report. Aaron prepared meticulously, ensuring their resource findings were impressive enough to hold the Baron's interest, while carefully avoiding any mention of the work he was doing with Mayare. The Baron's reception hall was less crowded than during the banquet, but still filled with courtiers and officials eager to witness the interaction. Mayare, in her hovering chair, positioned herself slightly behind Aaron, as was customary for lower-status individuals in Garathian court. Earth scientist, Baron Zalet greeted, not bothering to hide the condescension in his tone. I trust my daughter has been useful to your research. Lady Mayare has been invaluable, Aaron replied truthfully. Her knowledge of Garathian ecosystems has accelerated our understanding considerably. The Baron raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. Has she indeed? How unexpected. He glanced at his daughter with mild curiosity, as though seeing her for the first time. And what have you discovered about our world? Aaron presented their findings on the desert crystals, emphasizing their potential for clean energy generation, something Earth technologies could enhance through collaboration. As he spoke, he noticed several courtiers leaning forward with interest, particularly an elegant, severe-looking female Garathian who wore insignia that marked her as nobility from another house. Fascinating, the Baron commented when Aaron finished, though he seemed more interested in the reactions of his court than the actual information. And you believe these crystals hold significant value? Potentially revolutionary value, Aaron confirmed. But we've only scratched the surface of understanding their properties. Historical context would be enormously helpful. Historical context? The Baron seemed amused. Yes. Lady Mayare mentioned ancient texts that reference these crystals, including scientific applications that may have been forgotten. With access to such historical documents, our research could progress much faster. The Baron's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at his daughter. Did she? I wasn't aware Mayare had such scholarly interests. My Lord Father, Mayare spoke up, her voice clear but deferential. You yourself allowed me access to the library in my youth. I merely remembered texts that might aid Earth's understanding of our resources. For a moment, the Baron seemed caught between annoyance at being maneuvered and satisfaction at an opportunity to display his family's ancient knowledge. Pride went out. The texts she speaks of are indeed in my private collection, ancient and valuable beyond measure. We would be honored to consult them, Aaron said carefully. Under any supervision you deem appropriate, of course. Perhaps, the Baron began, but was interrupted by the noble female Aaron had noticed earlier. My Lord Baron, she said, her voice smooth as silk but with an edge of steel beneath. House Tavik would be most interested in the results of such research. The energy implications alone could shift the balance of resource control significantly. Baron Zalet's expression hardened imperceptibly. House Tavik, Aaron recalled from Mayara's briefings, was a rival family whose territories bordered Zalet lands, and whose power had been growing in recent years. Countess Tavik, the Baron acknowledged stiffly, always thinking of balances, merely of progress, she replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Surely if these Earth scientists can extract such value from our ancestral resources, all houses should benefit. The political undercurrents were obvious, even to Aaron. The Countess was implying that any technological advantages gained should be shared among the ruling houses, or perhaps, more specifically, with House Tavik. The Earth delegation works under House Zalat's protection and sponsorship, the Baron replied coldly. Any findings are ours to distribute as we see fit. Of course, the Countess conceded with a slight bow. I merely express interest as a potential investor in future applications. The tension in the room was palpable. Baron Zalat turned back to Aaron, his decision apparently made. You will have access to my library tomorrow. My daughter will accompany you, as she already has some familiarity with the texts in question. My chief archivist will supervise. Thank you, Baron. Aaron bowed deeply, struggling to contain his excitement. Your generosity advances scientific understanding for both our worlds. As they left the audience chamber, Mayare maneuvered her chair close to Aaron and spoke in a whisper. Be careful. Countess Tavik's interest is dangerous. She and my father have been rivals for generations, and she never appears without purpose. Political complications? Inevitable ones. The crystals you're studying lie primarily in border territories between our houses. If they prove as valuable as you suggest, conflict becomes likely. Aaron frowned. That wasn't my intention. Intentions matter little in Garathian politics. Mayare replied grimly. Results and power are all that count. The following day, under the watchful eye of a severe archivist who clearly resented their presence, Aaron and Mayare accessed the ancient texts. The library itself was breathtaking. A vast circular chamber with shelves reaching toward a domed ceiling painted with astronomical charts. Books, scrolls, and crystal data storage devices filled every available space. Mayare directed them to a section containing the oldest materials, fragile scrolls protected in transparent preservation cases. The text was indeed in an ancient dialect, one that the archivist himself admitted he could not read fluently. These passages, Mayare indicated, translating quietly, described the healing temples that once existed at the desert's edge. The crystals were shaped into specific configurations and energized by the twin moon's light. Healers would use them to reforge broken paths of life force within the body. Does it describe the technique? Aaron asked eagerly. Not completely, but there are diagrams. Mayare carefully manipulated the scroll to reveal intricate illustrations showing crystal arrangements around a figure who appeared to be lying within their formation, and references to a sacred site where the largest crystals were kept, called Vashtarel, roughly translated as mending place. Do you know where this would be? Mayare hesitated. I believe so. There are ruins in the deep desert, at the convergence of House Zalat and House Tavik territories. Few go there. The desert storms make passage dangerous. But if these crystals really could facilitate neural healing combined with Earth's interface technology. Aaron looked at Mayare intently. It would change everything we've been working toward. It would, she agreed, her golden eyes reflecting the library's soft light. But accessing the ruins would require my father's permission to travel into restricted territories. And if Countess Tavik learns of our interest in the site, one problem at a time, Aaron said. First, let's learn everything we can from these texts. They spent hours transcribing and translating the most relevant passages, Aaron capturing images of the diagrams with his data tablet. The archivist, growing increasingly bored with their methodical work, eventually retreated to his desk across the room, keeping only occasional watch on them. There's something else you should see, Mayare whispered, once she was certain they weren't being closely observed. From a hidden pocket in her robes, she withdrew a small crystal storage device. I made copies of some of Father's private correspondence when I was younger. Information is protection in my world. What kind of correspondence? Communications with other houses, including Tavik, regarding the border territories and their resources. My father has long suspected the true value of the crystals, but lacked the technological understanding to exploit them. That's likely why he agreed to host Earth scientists. Aaron frowned. So we're being used. Everyone is used in Garathian politics. Mayare replied matter-of-factly. The question is whether we can turn the situation to our advantage. She slipped the storage device into Aaron's hand. Review this in private. It may help us navigate what's coming. That night, after reviewing both the ancient texts and the Baron's correspondence, Aaron and Mayare formulated a plan. The correspondence revealed that tensions between Houses Zalat and Tavik had been building for years, with both sides claiming the crystal-rich border territories. More disturbing, there were references to potential military action. House Tavik had been quietly building forces, and Baron Zalat had been seeking technological advantages that might offset Tavik's numerical superiority. We need to visit the ruins, Aaron decided. The ancient techniques, combined with modern technology, might be our best hope for developing a working neural interface for you. And how do you propose we convince my father to allow such an expedition? Mayare asked skeptically. By offering him what he really wants, a weapon. Mayare's eyes widened. You would arm him against House Tavik? No. Aaron shook his head firmly. I would offer research into the crystal's energy amplification properties, suggesting military applications, while actually focusing on their healing capabilities. The same principles that might help regenerate neural pathways could also, theoretically, create energy weapons. We don't have to specify which aspect we're prioritizing. Deception, Mayare said, a hint of admiration in her voice. You're learning Garathian politics quite rapidly. I prefer to think of it as creative truth-telling, Aaron replied with a grim smile. And it gives us legitimate reason to visit the ruins with proper equipment and protection. Their proposal to Baron Zalat the next day was met with predictable interest. The Baron, always seeking advantage over his rivals, readily approved an expedition to the ancient ruins, providing transport and guards from his personal security force. What he didn't know was that, among the scientific equipment Aaron requested was a prototype neural interface system designed specifically for Mayare based on their research. The journey into the deep desert was arduous, even with the Baron's advanced transport. Sandstorms forced them to take shelter multiple times, and the heat was nearly unbearable during daylight hours. Mayare, despite her physical limitations, demonstrated remarkable resilience, never complaining even when the rough terrain made her hovering chair malfunction, requiring her to be carried part of the way by Aaron and the guards. The ruins of Vashterel emerged from the desert like the skeleton of some enormous beast, half buried in sand. Stone structures, partially collapsed, formed a rough circle around a central courtyard where massive crystal formations jutted from the ground like frozen flames. Even dormant, they seemed to pulse with faint inner light. The text described this place as a nexus of healing energy, Mayare said in hushed tones as they entered the courtyard. Pilgrims would travel for months, seeking restoration. And now we're the pilgrims, Aaron replied, setting up his equipment with the help of 2 members of his research team who had accompanied them. The plan was audacious, even dangerous. Using the ancient diagrams as a guide, they positioned smaller crystals, samples they had collected during previous research, around the central formation, creating a pattern that the text suggested would amplify the natural energy. Aaron's neural interface device would attempt to channel this energy directly into Mayare's nervous system, bypassing the damaged portions of her spine. The guards should not witness this, Mayare whispered as preparations neared completion. If it works, if I can stand, my father will see it as a threat, not a triumph. Why would your healing threaten him? Aaron asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. A broken daughter serves as narrative, that I am worthless, disposable. A daughter who overcomes her limitations challenges everything he has claimed about me. Her golden eyes held determination. More importantly, it would prove that an Earth scientist accomplished what the finest Garathian healers could not. His pride could not bear it. Aaron nodded, understanding the complex politics at play. We'll send them to secure the perimeter, he decided. Standard protocol for sensitive experiments. Once alone with just Aaron's most trusted team members, they proceeded. Mayare lay in the center of the crystal formation, nervous but resolute, as Aaron attached the interface nodes to specific points along her spine, following the ancient diagrams with modern technological interpretation. The text suggests the crystals are most receptive to energy during specific alignments of the moons, Mayare explained. We're approaching such an alignment now. Then we're right on schedule, Aaron replied, making final adjustments to the equipment. The interface will attempt to create new neural pathways using your body's own electrical signals, amplified and redirected by the crystals. It may be uncomfortable, even painful. Pain is temporary, Mayare said quietly. This chance may never come again. As the twin moons reached their alignment overhead, casting double shadows across the ancient courtyard, Aaron activated the interface. The crystals surrounding Mayare began to glow, softly at first, then with increasing intensity until they blazed with blue-white light that seemed to flow like liquid between them, creating luminous pathways that converged on Mayare's prone form. She gasped, her back arching involuntarily as energy surged through the interface nodes. For a terrifying moment, Aaron feared he had miscalculated, that the energy might be too much for her system to bear. But Mayare's expression, though pained, remained determined. Keep going, she gritted through clenched teeth. I can feel something. The energy flow stabilized, pulsing in rhythm with Mayare's heartbeat. Aaron watched in fascination as the interface readings showed neural activity where there had been none before, new pathways forming, bypassing the damaged sections of her spine. After what seemed like hours, but was likely only minutes, the crystal's glow began to fade as the moons moved out of alignment. The energy flow diminished gradually until only the faintest luminescence remained, shimmering across Mayare's skin like morning dew. Silence fell over the ancient courtyard. Mayare lay still, eyes closed, breathing steadily. Maida! Aaron called softly, approaching cautiously. Can you hear me? Her eyes opened, those remarkable golden irises seeming to reflect the last of the crystal energy. Yes, she whispered. I feel different. Different how? Instead of answering, Mayare took a deep breath and attempted to sit up, something she had always required assistance to do. To both their astonishment, she managed it without help. Her movements shaky but undeniably her own. I can feel them, she said in wonder, looking down her legs. Not completely, but they're there, like limbs that have fallen asleep and are now awakening. Aaron knelt beside her, hardly daring to hope. Can you help me stand? She interrupted, extending her hands to him. Carefully, Aaron supported her as she slowly, tremblingly, rose to her feet. Her legs quivered under her weight, but they held. For the first time in her life, Mayare Zalat stood on her own power. A single tear traced its way down her cheek, the first Aaron had ever seen her shed. It worked, she whispered. Truly worked. The moment of triumph was shattered by a voice from the ruins entrance. What exactly has worked, I wonder? Countess Tavik stood in the archway, flanked by armed guards wearing her house colors. Behind them lay the bodies of Baron Zalat's security forces, unconscious or dead. Aaron couldn't tell. Countess, Mayare acknowledged, still standing with Aaron's support, refusing to show weakness. You're far from your territories. Not as far as you might think, the Countess replied smoothly, stepping into the courtyard. These ruins lie in disputed lands. And now I find House Zalat conducting secret experiments here, with alien technology, no less. Her eyes narrowed as she took in Mayare's stance. Most interesting experiments, it seems. This is a scientific expedition sanctioned by Baron Zalat, Aaron said firmly. Any interference would constitute an act of aggression between houses. The Countess smiled thinly. How fortunate, then, that there are no witnesses to such aggression. My spies reported your departure into the deep desert. When you failed to return, Baron Zalat might reasonably assume the desert claimed you. A tragic loss. You intend to kill us, Mayare stated flatly. Kill? Such a harsh word. The Countess circled the crystal formation, studying the equipment with evident interest. I prefer detain for questioning. After all, this technology, whatever has allowed you to stand, Mayare Zalat, could be immensely valuable. And you, Earth scientist, will explain exactly how it works. The technology is incomplete, experimental, Aaron objected. It requires specific conditions present only in these ruins and— Save your deceptions, the Countess cut him off. My researchers will determine the truth. Seize them. As the Tavik guards advanced, something unexpected happened. Mayar, still trembling but determined, took a step forward without Aaron's support. Then another. Her movements were unsteady but unmistakably deliberate. You will not touch him, she said, her voice carrying an authority that seemed to surprise even the Countess. Nor will you claim this technology for House Tavik. And who will stop me? The Countess asked, amused. You? The crippled daughter, suddenly playing at strength. Not playing, Mayare replied. And before anyone could react, she placed her hand on one of the large central crystals. The effect was immediate and astonishing. Energy surged from the crystal, flowing through Mayare as though she were a conduit, surrounding her in a nimbus of blue-white light. The neural interface nodes still attached to her spine began to glow with increasing intensity. What is happening? The Countess demanded, taking an involuntary step back. What is she doing? Aaron was equally bewildered. Nothing in the ancient texts had suggested this kind of reaction was possible. Yet somehow, Mayare seemed to be channeling the crystal's energy directly, without technological mediation. The interface, Aaron realized aloud. It's not just creating neural pathways. It's allowing her to connect with the crystals on a fundamental level. The energy surrounding Mayare expanded outward in a shockwave that knocked the advancing guards off their feet. The Countess remained standing, protected by some personal shield technology, but her expression had transformed from confidence to alarm. Stop this immediately, she commanded. I don't think she can, Aaron replied, watching in amazement as Mayara stood straighter, stronger, the trembling in her legs subsiding as energy continued to flow through her. And I don't think she wants to. I understand now, Mayara said, her voice resonating strangely, as though speaking from within the crystal itself. The ancient texts weren't just about healing. They described communion. The crystals don't just conduct energy. They're conduits for consciousness. With apparent ease, she raised both hands, and the smaller crystals around the formation rose into the air, orbiting her like satellites around a star. The Tavik guards scrambled backward in fear. Impossible, the Countess whispered. Such manipulation requires years of training, specialized equipment, or perhaps just the right connection, Aaron suggested, watching in awe as Mayre's confidence grew with each passing second. The neural interface had somehow facilitated a deeper bond than he had anticipated, not just repairing physical pathways, but opening metaphysical ones as well. Countess Tavik, Mayare addressed her directly, her golden eyes now luminous with crystal energy. You will leave this place. You will not speak of what you've witnessed, and you will cease your encroachment on these territories. You dare to command me? The Countess's shock gave way to anger. You are nothing, a broken girl playing with powers she doesn't understand. I understand more than you realize, Mayare replied calmly. For instance, I understand that these crystals could disable your personal shield with a thought. As if to demonstrate, a pulse of energy surged toward the Countess, causing her shield to flicker and fail. The Countess blanched. This is an act of war. No, Mayra Kerektiv. This is a negotiation. Leave now, with your forces intact, and I will consider the matter closed. Stay, and discover what else I might do with this newfound connection. For a tense moment, it seemed the Countess might challenge her, but self-preservation won out. With a gesture to her remaining guards, she backed toward the entrance. This isn't over, Zaladair. Your father will hear of this treachery. I'm counting on it, Mayare replied. Only when the Tavik forces had departed did Mayare finally release her grip on the crystal. The energy surrounding her dissipated gradually, leaving her once again dependent on Aaron's support to remain standing. But she didn't collapse entirely. The healing that had begun continued to stabilize her. That was, Aaron searched for words, unprecedented. For both of us, Mayare agreed, her voice returning to normal though her eyes still held a hint of that crystal luminescence. I felt everything. The crystals, the ruins, the very sand beneath our feet, all connected, all part of the same energy system. And you controlled it. Not controlled, she corrected. Directed. The energy wanted to flow. I simply suggested where. She looked down at her legs, which now supported her with only minimal assistance. What happens now? Now, Aaron said decisively. We return to your father's fortress. With Countess Tavik sure to report her version of events, we need to establish our narrative first. And what narrative is that? Aaron considered for a moment. The truth, or most of it, that our research into the crystal's properties yielded unexpected medical applications. That you've regained partial mobility through experimental treatment. We'll leave out the part about you becoming one with ancient crystal energy and terrifying a rival house leader. Mayare actually laughed, a sound Aaron had never heard from her before. A wise omission. The journey back to House Zalit's territories was considerably faster than their outbound trip, thanks to an unexpected lull in the desert storms. By the time they arrived at the fortress, news of their encounter with Tavik forces had indeed preceded them, though distorted through the lens of the Countess's wounded pride. Baron Zalit was waiting in his audience chamber, his expression thunderous. Explain, he demanded as Aaron and Mayare were ushered in, why Countess Tavik accuses my house of developing weapons of mass destruction in restricted territories. Weapons, Aaron repeated, feigning confusion. Our research concerns energy applications, my lord. Perhaps medical applications as well. He gestured to Mayare, who had insisted on entering without her hovering chair, instead walking slowly with the aid of simple staff. As you can see, the Baron's eyes widened as he took in the sight of his daughter standing before him. For a fleeting moment, something like genuine emotion crossed his features, surprise, certainly, but perhaps also a flicker of pride quickly suppressed. What sorcery is this? He demanded, recovering his composure. Science, not sorcery, Aaron corrected politely. A neural interface system enhanced by the natural properties of the desert crystals. The treatment is experimental, still stabilizing, but the results speak for themselves. The Baron descended from his platform, approaching Mayare with narrowed eyes. You can walk. With assistance for now, she replied, meeting his gaze steadily. Soon, I believe, without it. A miracle of Garathian and Earth science combined, Aaron added smoothly. The ancient texts in your library were instrumental in our breakthrough. That caught the Baron's attention. My library? His gaze shifted between them, calculating. You found something of value in those old scrolls. Invaluable insights, Aaron confirmed. The ancients understood the crystal's properties at a fundamental level we're only beginning to rediscover. Combined with Earth's neural interface technology, the applications are significant. Significant enough to frighten Countess Tavik. It seems, the Baron observed, a hint of satisfaction creeping into his voice. She claims you wielded energy weapons against her guards. The crystals display unusual energy patterns when activated, Aaron said carefully. Harmless discharges, mostly, but impressive to witness. The Countess may have misinterpreted our research demonstration. It wasn't exactly a lie. The energy Mayare had channeled hadn't been intended as a weapon, even if it had manifested in a way that appeared threatening. The Baron seemed to consider this explanation, his gaze lingering on Mayare's upright posture with a mix of disbelief and calculation. And this, healing, it's permanent. The neural pathways are still developing, Aaron explained. With continued treatment, Lady Mayare should regain increasing function over time. Continued treatment that requires access to the crystal formations in the ruins, Mayare added pointedly. The same ruins Countess Tavik attempted to claim for House Tavik. The Baron's expression darkened at the reminder of his rival's encroachment. Vashterel has always been Zalit territory, despite Tavik's claims. Perhaps, Aaron suggested diplomatically. The scientific significance of the site could be recognized formally. If House Zalat were to establish a research center there dedicated to medical applications of the crystal technology, House Zalat would control access to revolutionary healing techniques. The Baron finished, grasping the political advantage immediately. Techniques that restored my own daughter, whom even the finest Garathian healers could not help. Exactly, Aaron nodded, exchanging a quick glance with Mayare. A demonstration of House Zalat's superiority through scientific patronage rather than military might. The Baron circled Mayare slowly, his political mind clearly working through the implications. And you, daughter, what role do you envision for yourself in this research center? It was the first time he had ever asked for her opinion on anything meaningful. Mayare straightened her spine, gripping her staff firmly. I am uniquely positioned to understand both the patient's perspective and the crystal technology itself. I would oversee the research, with Earth scientists like Aaron providing the technical expertise. Her voice took on an edge of challenge. Unless you still consider me worthless to your house. The Baron's eyes narrowed, but he surprised them both by laughing. Worthless? Perhaps I judged too hastily. A daughter who can walk after a lifetime of confinement, who frightens Countess Havoc with mere research demonstrations, and who proposes to extend House Zalat's influence through healing rather than warfare? He shook his head. Not worthless at all, it seems. Then you support the establishment of a research center at Vashterel? Aaron pressed. Support it? I shall announce it formally at the Grand Convocation 3 days hence. The Baron's eyes gleamed with ambition. All houses will be present. All will witness House Zalat's mastery of science and healing. And all will see my daughter walk before them. Mayare tensed visibly. Father, my recovery is still progressing. I cannot guarantee. You will walk, he interrupted, his tone brooking no argument. You will demonstrate to all of Gareth that House Zalat has achieved what none thought possible. His expression softened marginally. And you will take your rightful place as heir to this house. With that pronouncement, he swept from the chamber, already calling for his advisors to begin preparations for the convocation. Alone with Aaron, Mayare let out a long breath. That went differently than expected. Better or worse? Aaron asked, helping her to a seat as her legs began to tremble from the extended standing. I'm not sure, she admitted. He's embraced our research, which secures the future of the crystal technology. He's recognized my value, which I've sought my entire life. She frowned, and yet he immediately weaponized both for a political advantage. Would you expect anything less? No, she sighed. But now I must walk before the assembled houses in 3 days' time. My father doesn't make requests. He issues commands that must be fulfilled. Then we continue the treatments, Aaron said decisively. We know the interface works. We know the crystals respond to you specifically. With smaller samples brought from the ruins, we can create a modified version of the treatment here. Mayare nodded, determination replacing worry. We'll need privacy equipment. I'll speak with my team. We'll convert part of our research lab. For the next 3 days, they worked tirelessly. Smaller crystal formations were arranged according to the ancient diagrams, and the neural interface was refined based on the data from their experience at Vashterel. Each treatment strengthened Mayare's neural pathways, and each day her walking improved, from needing constant support to managing short distances with just the staff. But there was more happening than mere physical rehabilitation. Mayare's connection to the crystals deepened with each session. She could now activate them with just a touch, directing their energy in increasingly precise ways. It was as though the interface had awakened something dormant within her, some natural affinity for the crystal energy that had always been present but untapped. It's like learning a language, she explained to Aaron during one session. At first, it was just noise, overwhelming energy with no structure. Now I perceive patterns, intentions almost. The crystals have intentions. She smiled at his skepticism. Not consciousness as we understand it, but purpose perhaps. They want to restore balance in my body, in the environment around us. I merely provide direction. The night before the grand convocation, as they completed their final treatment session, Baron Zalet summoned them to his private chambers, an unprecedented honor that signaled the importance he placed on the following day's demonstration. Tomorrow, he began without preamble. Representatives from every great house on Gareth will witness a miracle of science. They will see my daughter walk unaided across the convocation hall to take her place beside me. He fixed Mayare with an intense stare. You will not fail. I will do my best, father, Mayare replied carefully. But I cannot promise. I am not interested in limitations, he cut her off. The future of our house depends on this demonstration. Countess Tavik has been spreading rumors that our claims are exaggerated, that Earth's science is fraudulent. His gaze shifted to Aaron. You have assured me the treatment is working. It is, Aaron confirmed. But complete recovery takes time. Lady Mayare can walk short distances with minimal support, which is remarkable progress. Progress is insufficient. I require perfection. The Baron turned away, gazing out at the desert visible through his chamber windows, particularly given what my spies report from the Tavik territories, which is Maida Plompet. Military preparations, he replied grimly. Countess Tavik does not believe our research is purely medical. She fears weapons development and is positioning forces near the border and the ruins. Aaron and Mayare exchanged concerned glances. This was exactly the kind of escalation they had hoped to avoid. Tomorrow's demonstration must be convincing enough to give her pause, the Baron continued. To show our mastery of the crystal technology is so complete that military action would be foolish. A peaceful resolution would benefit everyone, Aaron agreed cautiously. The Baron laughed without humor. Peace through strength is the only peace Gareth has ever known. Tomorrow, you will demonstrate that strength. He turned back to them. Rest, prepare, fail me, and the consequences will extend far beyond our house. With that ominous warning, they were dismissed. He's right about one thing, Mayare said as they made their way back to their quarters. The convocation could determine whether we face war or peace. Can you do what he asks? Aaron asked directly. Walk across the hall, unaided? Maida hestita. Perhaps. The physical ability is nearly there. But to do it before hundreds of witnesses, under such pressure, she shook her head. I don't know. There might be another option, Aaron said slowly. The crystal connection you've developed, could you use it to support yourself, to enhance your strength temporarily? Channel the energy through the neural pathways directly? Mayare considered. It could work, but I need a source, crystal samples large enough to generate sufficient energy. Leave that to me, Aaron promised. Just be ready to embrace the connection more fully than ever before. The Grand Convocation Hall was a marvel of Garathian architecture, a vast circular chamber with a domed ceiling that seemed to capture the very stars themselves. Tiered seating rose around a central floor where representatives from each great house gathered in their formal regalia. At the far end, on an elevated dais, sat Baron Zalet on an ornate throne, with an empty seat beside him clearly intended for Mayare. Aaron stood with the other Earth delegates in a section reserved for foreign visitors, his heart pounding with anticipation and worry. Beneath his formal attire, he carried several crystal shards from their research, each carefully positioned according to Mayare's instructions, close enough to his body that she would be able to sense and connect with them when the time came. Countess Tavik sat with her delegation directly opposite House Zalet, her expression coolly composed but her eyes watchful. The tension between the houses was palpable, with lesser nobles glancing nervously between the two powerful rivals. After formal greetings and ceremonial exchanges, Baron Zalet rose to address the assembly. Noble houses of Gareth, his voice carried effortlessly across the hall. For generations, we have sought mastery over the desert that claims half our world. Today, House Zalet demonstrates such mastery, not through conquest, but through understanding. A murmur swept through the crowd. The Baron continued, Many of you are aware that my daughter, Mayare Zalet, has lived with physical limitations since birth. limitations that our finest healers declared permanent and irreversible. Aaron noticed uncomfortable shifting among several Garathians who wore the insignia of the medical guilds. The Baron was deliberately highlighting their failure to emphasize his own triumph. Through collaboration with Earth science and rediscovery of our ancestors' wisdom, we have achieved the impossible. The Baron gestured toward a side entrance. Behold! All eyes turned as the door swung open. Mayare stood there, dressed in formal robes of house salad, embroidered with gold and crystal accents. She carried no staff, showed no obvious support mechanism. For a breathless moment, she remained perfectly still, gathering herself. Then she took a step forward, then another. Each movement was deliberate, measured, but unmistakably independent. A collective gasp rose from the assembly as she continued her slow progression across the vast hall. Aaron sensed the exact moment she connected with the crystals he carried. Her posture shifted subtly, her movements becoming more fluid, more confident. He could almost see the invisible current of energy flowing between them, supporting her, strengthening her with each step. Countess Tavik leaned forward in her seat, her composed facade cracking to reveal naked disbelief. Others in the assembly began to whisper, point, some even rising from their seats for a better view of the miracle unfolding before them. As Mayare reached the halfway point of her journey, something unexpected happened. The ornamental crystals adorning her robes began to glow faintly, responding to her presence. The glow spread, running along the embroidered patterns like liquid light, until her entire figure seemed illuminated from within. It wasn't planned. Aaron realized she was drawing energy not just from the samples he carried, but from every crystal in the hall, including decorative elements in the architecture itself. The connection she had developed was far more profound than either of them had anticipated. The whispers grew louder, turning to exclamations of wonder and fear. Baron Zalat himself appeared momentarily stunned before recovering his composure, rising to his feet as his daughter approached the dais. Mayare ascended the steps steadily, the crystal glow intensifying with each step until she stood before her father, radiating light that cast long shadows across the hall. For a moment, they regarded each other, the Baron, tall and imposing in his ceremonial armor, and his daughter, slight but luminous with power neither of them had fully understood until this moment. Then, to the astonishment of everyone present, Baron Zalat bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect he had never before shown his daughter. "The heir of House Zalat," he announced, his voice carrying a note of genuine pride that couldn't be entirely feigned. "Living proof of our mastery of crystal science and the future of Garathian healing arts." Mayare inclined her head in acknowledgement, then turned to face the assembly. The light surrounding her dimmed slightly, becoming less overwhelming but no less remarkable. "Noble houses of Gareth," she addressed them directly, her voice clear and strong. "What you witness is not merely a personal triumph, but a new beginning for our world. The crystals of the deep desert hold powers our ancestors understood, but we have forgotten. Powers of healing, of restoration, of balance." She extended her hand, and to everyone's amazement, small crystal shards from various decorative elements throughout the hall rose into the air, orbiting slowly above the central floor. House Zalat proposes the establishment of a crystal research sanctuary at the ancient site of Vashterel, open to all houses for healing and scientific collaboration. No longer shall crystal technology be the subject of territorial disputes or military ambition, but rather a shared resource for the betterment of all Garathians. The Baron's expression flickered. This specific proposal hadn't been discussed with him, but seeing the enthusiastic reaction from the assembly, he quickly adapted. "Indeed," he confirmed, stepping forward to stand beside his daughter. "The sanctuary shall be neutral ground, protected by all houses collectively rather than claimed by any single one." His gaze fixed pointedly on Countess Tavik, who sat rigidly in her seat, clearly calculating the political implications of this unexpected development. Will House Tavik join this collaborative endeavor? Mayare asked directly, her golden eyes meeting the countess's across the hall. Or do you still believe military solutions are preferable to healing ones? It was a masterful political maneuver. To refuse publicly would position House Tavik as an aggressor against a healing initiative, potentially alienating their allies and supporters. To agree would require abandoning their military positioning around the ruins. The Countess rose slowly from her seat, her expression unreadable. House Tavik recognizes the significance of this demonstration. We would be interested in participating in such a sanctuary, provided all houses have equal access and oversight. Naturally, Mayare agreed smoothly. The wonders of healing should be available to all who need them, regardless of house affiliation. The tension in the hall visibly dissipated. Other House representatives began to voice their support for the initiative, many approaching the dais to examine Mayare's transformation more closely or to pledge resources to the proposed sanctuary. As the formal proceedings transitioned to celebratory mingling, Aaron made his way through the crowd to where Mayare now sat beside her father, receiving a constant stream of well-wishers and curious nobles. Earth scientist Baron Zalat acknowledged him with newfound respect. It seems I underestimated both your capabilities and my daughter's potential. Such underestimation is common when dealing with the unexpected, my lord, Aaron replied diplomatically. The Baron's lips twitched in what might have been amusement. Indeed, though I confess, the light show was more dramatic than I anticipated, almost as though the crystals themselves responded to her presence. A curious side effect of a neural interface, Aaron explained carefully. The energy pathways we established seemed to resonate with crystal formations in proximity. Convenient, the Baron commented, his tone making it clear he suspected there was more to it than Aaron was revealing, and potentially quite useful. Before Aaron could respond, Mayare intervened, clearly tired but still composed. Father, I would speak privately with Aaron. There are technical aspects of the treatment we must discuss before proceeding with the sanctuary plans. The Baron nodded, distracted by the approach of another noble seeking to curry favor. By all means, we have much to discuss later regarding your proposal. When they were relatively alone in a quiet corner of the hall, Mayare finally allowed herself to lean on Aaron for support. That was more taxing than I expected, she admitted quietly. You were magnificent, Aaron told her sincerely. Not just the walking, but the political maneuvering. The sanctuary proposal was inspired. Necessity more than inspiration, she replied. I could sense the crystal energy throughout the hall, throughout the fortress, perhaps throughout all of Gareth. There's so much potential for healing, for growth. It cannot belong to any single house, least of all mine. Your father seems surprised by your proposal. He'll adapt, she said confidently. He values power and status above all else. Controlling a neutral sanctuary still grants him significant influence, without the military costs of defending disputed territory. And Countess Tavik will comply for now. She has no choice politically, but she'll look for advantages, for ways to claim greater control of the sanctuary over time. Mayare's golden eyes met his. Which is why we need you and the Earth delegation to remain involved as neutral parties. Aaron nodded slowly, understanding the complex balance being established. And you? What role will you play in all this? The role I was born for, it seems, she replied with a small smile. Not merely heir to House Zalat, but bridge between the crystal energy and those who need healing. Between Garathian tradition and Earth innovation. Between competing houses that would otherwise war over resources. From unwanted daughter to pivotal figure, Aaron observed. Your father's gift backfired rather spectacularly. Mayare actually laughed. Indeed, though I suspect he now considers it one of his more brilliant political maneuvers, regardless of his original intent. Will you tell him the truth? About your connection to the crystals? She considered for a moment. Some of it, perhaps. As much as serves the greater purpose. The full truth might frighten even him. And what is the full truth, Mayare? Her expression grew serious. The crystals are more than tools or resources, Aaron. They're part of Gareth itself, a network of energy and information that spans the entire planet. Our ancestors didn't just use them. They communed with them, became partners with them. She gestured subtly toward where various nobles were examining crystal ornaments with newfound interest. What they see as a technological breakthrough is actually the beginning of a relationship. A relationship you're uniquely positioned to guide, Aaron finished for her. With your help, she added, touching his hand lightly. The neural interface you created didn't just heal my body. It opened a door that had been closed to my people for generations. I'll stay, Aaron promised, at least until the sanctuary is established and your position is secure. And after that, she asked, an unexpected vulnerability in her voice. After that, Aaron smiled. I suspect Gareth and Earth will have much to learn from each other. Cultural exchange programs might be necessary. Ongoing scientific collaboration. Regular visits between worlds. Mayaray's answering smile was radiant. I believe House Zalet would be very interested in hosting such exchanges. Across the hall, Baron Zalet watched his daughter and the Earth scientist with calculating eyes, noting their closeness, the evident bond between them. He had intended the gift of his daughter as a cruel joke, a way to mock both the human and the child he had long considered worthless. Instead, he had inadvertently created the most powerful alliance on Gareth, between a daughter now revealed to be extraordinary and a scientist whose abilities exceeded all expectations. For the first time in his long life, the Baron felt something approaching regret for his past cruelty, mixed with an unfamiliar sense of pride. The joke had transformed his broken daughter into a legend, and in doing so, elevated House Zalet beyond his wildest ambitions. As he watched Mare rise once more to greet another dignitary, moving with growing confidence on legs that had never before supported her, Baron Zalet made a silent vow. Never again would he underestimate the power of those he deemed worthless, nor the unexpected ways in which the universe might transform his most callous actions into something approaching redemption.